Hello everyone. Today is Monday, which means we have a regular DevSync. We'll share updates, what was happening at our team during last week. Leo, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I was mainly focused in the Subspace Desktop application, working with Osgood. We added all the things we talked in the last meeting from the for the app sync, and fixed several issues actually. And we checked it in a meet with Osgood in the morning, and it was working pretty well. But I was updating to the latest version, the Subspace repository, and now I am having some building issues in here. So I was solving that, and I think that it's just a dependencies update from Tauri actually. They released some RC1 and 2, and I have some things in there. But the app now is launching and is redirecting if the plotting is already created, and the plotting progress is now not fake, is real. It gets the latest segment index from the network, and it start comparing with the local farmer and the plotting information. So we fixed several things in there, and after updating these dependencies conflicts, I will create this PR to get the release there. And well, also in Subspace, we updated to the latest Polkadot application, and we released a tiny update with that. And we added some ESM and common JS support, so we can run in React and everything with no problem. And yeah, I think that those are my updates.
All right, sounds good. Questions to Leo?
That's great, Leo. Thanks for the progress. Go ahead.
If I can fix these dependencies, I will be talking to you, Nazar, because I already have like 1 hour and still having these problems.
Okay, great. So after you fix that, we should be able to release Subspace Desktop and then start testing that internally with the team, right?
Yep.
One more thing. Remaining time. Have you fixed that, Leo, or we can work it on together?
I fixed it. Remaining time. Yeah, it calculates and it starts discounting the remaining time. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. So the next step, once we have that release done, Justin, you're going to get everybody on the core team running desktop versus CLI. All right. Our goal is to get the whole team running it on desktop, and I expect we'll probably have some bugs, so we'll just have to get those filtered back to Leo and Oskin as quickly as possible. And that'll be y'all's priority to get those bugs corrected as they appear. Glad to hear we're making progress on that.
Okay, let's move to Osgun then.
Okay. So let's start with Subspace Desktop, then I will move on to more smaller things. So last week I implemented the on progress change to the library itself so that we could use it on the desktop, and it's working. And we also fixed it on the front end thanks to Leo. So we got that going. Other fixes for the Subspace Desktop is the allocated space field is now read-only, so the user cannot change it. Also added and updated some tooltips for the utilized, allocated, and available fields in the setup plot screen, so it won't be confusing for anyone. Also, I made the next button available so that when you click on during the plotting progress, you can show the tips. You don't have to wait for plotting to finish. And also, it doesn't say finished when everything is finished. It remains as next. So here is the thing. When it's plotting, you can click on the next. It can show you the tooltips. Then when you review the tips, the next button becomes disabled until plotting is finished. When plotting is finished, it becomes re-enabled. You click on it, you move to the next and the final screen. That's the workflow at the moment. As we discussed, it's implemented and there is no bugs on that, as far as I have tested though. I also removed the pause and resume plotting buttons since they will be confusing at the moment. If you want to reintroduce this functionality, we can always do so in the future. But right now, I just remove them. So plotting starts. If you want to cancel it, you can quit the application itself, but there is no button for pause or resume plotting at the moment. Other than that, I was trying to test supranationals code. That was occupying some of my time. Other than that, today and yesterday actually, I think I finally implemented my solution on commitments. So I will submit a PR tomorrow explaining what is changed and why is it safe. And other than that, yeah, that's all. That's all my updates for the last week.
Okay, questions to Ozgun?
Can you give a little bit more specifics on the supranational code, how that's going?
So as they promised, they implemented the CUDA PTX inside OpenCL. That is working. So when I compile and test with the flag OpenCL, it works fine on NVIDIA GPUs, which is great. Unfortunately, the main purpose was for OpenCL was running on AMD GPUs, and I still can't run them on AMD GPUs, both on Windows and Linux. So I will try to get a more detailed report on that to send to supranational, since they don't have an access to AMD machine at the moment, I believe, or at least they don't have my GPU, which is creating the issue. So we will see about that. Other than that, the CPU support is again working. Nothing has been changed or broken about that. And also with the CUDA flag, so if we disregard CUDA OpenCL and compile it with CUDA, it's still working, like nothing is broken on that part as well. That's all the details I have.
Okay, so supranational tested on AMD. They said it worked for them and their benches, but you can't reproduce it. It fails when you try to run it on your AMD GPU.
They're using newer GPU. By the way, Ozgun, do you have any machines with Intel integrated graphics?
I don't think so. Maybe, I'm not sure about MacBooks without M1. Do they have Intel graphic?
They do.
Okay, then I can test it on that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's try to get a bug report. I mean, don't try to debug it yourself, Özkan. Just
No,
if it
I'm
doesn't
not.
work, just create a ticket and get it back to supranational. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
we
what
are
they're
in
getting paid to
contact.
do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you guys communicating through GitHub issues already?
Unfortunately, no.
Mostly email.
Okay. Can you just CC me on that so I have visibility with what's going on there? Okay. And then the other thing, you said something about commitments. What? I thought we had resolved all the bugs with commitments.
We resolved all the bugs, but it was not the best way to do it. So I may have an idea to improve the workflow. So functionality will not change. The code will be simpler or more straightforward. That's all. So it's not a
Okay,
priority.
let's just backlog that until further notice. We got more important things to worry about right now. If it's working, that's good enough.
I was waiting supranational's response and Leo's response. So in the meantime, I was free on the weekend. I just did it. That's all.
Okay. Cool. All right. Thanks for all the hard work, Özkan.
No problem.
Okay, Justin, you're next.
Awesome. So last week, we were focused on getting some more people added to the FarmNet. Spent some time with the ambassadors. I got about 5 out of the 7 on. Just waiting on 2 of them. Had busy weekends, so they haven't been able to hop on just yet. Got some community members going as well. Last week, we peaked at about 21 nodes. I didn't quite hit my goal of 25, unfortunately. some of the ambassadors were a little less available and still haven't been able to get it going. And some of the community said they were going to get it running and then never got it up and going. But moving forward, I'll continue to get them running. One thing I have noticed is most of the community members are starting it up and they would run for a day or two, but they would slowly kind of drop off. So we are currently down to about 12 nodes. Part of that issue too is my chain and Emil's chain both split into like a separate single chain for some reason. I just realized that this morning, so I'm going to get a bug report created and submitted on GitHub for that, and waiting for logs from the ambassador for that as well. Beyond that, just continuing to be iterating on the documentation. Got a lot of good feedback when I was working with the ambassadors, so kind of improving that as we go. Just trying to streamline that workflow. Other than that, though, everyone's pretty happy with it. There's no complaints other than just like the terminals and the instructions, you know. But as far as like lag or anything like that, we haven't seen any complaints, or at least I haven't heard any, as far as, you know, the programs bogging down systems or anything like that. So I think that's a good sign. Got the translated channel, not translated, international channels opened. For now, you know, we're just sticking with some of the basic, more broader languages that we can have a staff member moderate. Obviously, as we go, we'll try and expand into some community moderation as we expand and grow. But so far, so well, so good. Everyone seems very happy. They've been pretty active. I noticed a lot of like the Russian groups have been doing translations and things along those lines. Maybe not the best quality translations, but at least they're contributing. So it seems like they're pretty excited. And my last thing I was working on last week was just with Skylar and Diana on a good like semi-final version of a community roadmap we've been working on. We're starting to kind of get that laid out, aligned with milestones that, you know, the rest of the team is working on. So that's kind of coming together as well. Moving forward on this week, I will be continuing to get feedback from the community on the farming process, and once we get the Subspace Desktop release, starting to get the team updated onto that, and obviously just like a baseline documentation for that as well. And I needed to figure out the issue with the splitting chains, and was going to continue to reach out. Once we get the Subspace Desktop release, I wanted to send it out to the pretty much the majority of the community, just kind of get a bulk, big, you know, large group of people testing it out and seeing if we can have any issues, and, you know, continue to iterate from there.
I have a question about splitting network. I hear about it for the first time, even though supposedly 2 people have it. How does it look like?
So it's, I have 0 peers. So like I'm the only peer on my chain. Mine, it stopped at 350,000 block, and it's just been trying to sync, but not able to since. Emil's, based off of telemetry, it looks similar, but I haven't got the logs from him yet. So I can't.
Okay, so you're basically offline as far as network is concerned. This is something that Serge already saw recently, and there is already a ticket about that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and you know, with restarts and everything, it's still not working. So I will investigate that ticket and add my logs to that as well for their investigation.
Okay. So just so we have good communication on this, so how did that ticket bug creation go, Serge or Nazar? How did you guys do that? Because Justin wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, actually, I even messaged Serge this morning, like, "Hey, your node's down," and he was like, "Yeah, I'm talking to Nazar."
Well, Serge DM'd me, and I created a ticket based on the logs that he provided.
Okay.
We tried a few things, didn't work. Some didn't work, some worked, and based on that, we've created a ticket.
Okay. And then that was in Subspace monorepo, that ticket?
Yep.
Okay. So Justin, do you get notifications when new tickets are created in GitHub for that?
I do when I'm tagged on it. I don't think I do when every ticket's created. I think I can change that setting.
Okay. So we should probably tag Justin on any tickets related to the testnet so he's aware, so that we're not like both working on problems independently, or, you know, he knows that it's a problem. And well, Justin, go ahead.
Usually if someone wants to submit a ticket, try to search if this ticket is already like there. Just good rule of thumb.
No, definitely, yeah.
Sure.
I just realized it this morning, so.
Yeah, you should be subscribed basically to all tickets in there as well, Justin. But I'm just saying we should we just need to work on our communication so that everybody's aware. Justin, if you notice these bugs before, instead of waiting for this meeting to notify Nazar, you just need to DM Nazar. Or again, guys, DMs, let's try to get away from DMs. I noticed in the engineering chat, there's not as much chat happening in there. It's probably all happening on DMs. So let's, like, Serge, if you see a bug with the testnet, instead of DMing Nazar, put it in the testnet chat so that Justin has visibility on it. Justin, as soon as you see an issue with anybody's node on the testnet, same thing, right? That way we kind of all have visibility on what's happening.
Sounds good.
Okay, you said that there are 12 people, 12 nodes currently online. Do you have visibility on who those nodes are? Like if they're from the core team, or do you just see a total count?
I do have visibility on each node. Some of the core team were some of the people that shut down, and I had reached out to them independently.
Okay.
So, like for example, Serge obviously was one of them. Ozgun, I think his went down while he was doing testing on some of the farmer stuff, and then some of the ambassadors' nodes went down as well. And I got to reach out to Diana.
Great. Okay. And then what is the kind of feedback you're getting on the documentation? If you could just like summarize that, like how you're changing it at a high level.
I'm kind of getting a little bit of both ends of the feedback. Some ambassadors want it to be more CLI friendly, where it's not as hard to they want the wget commands and everything like that, so they can just copy paste, and then call it a day. If they're like over SSH, And then on the other side, some of the more non-computer friendly people just feel like they're speaking in hieroglyphics as soon as you ask them to open the terminal. So it's kind of a 6 one way, half a dozen the other, where it's not advanced enough for some people who are like used to running nodes, and it's too advanced for people who are like not familiar at all with the process.
Okay.
And my thinking is I'm going to maybe just add like a CLI option or section with like the wget commands. I'm still kind of game planning on what might be the best format, but just trying to simplify and kind of expand on gray areas within the documentation. For example, as you mentioned, Jeremiah, the name of the file not being automatically filled out, that's very confusing as well. A lot of users think that that's what they need to paste instead of replacing that with the actual file name. So that's one major thing I want to focus on getting fixed as well.
Okay. All right. There's something else you mentioned, but I forgot what it was.
Community roadmap, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For the desktop farmer. Yeah, and great work on the community roadmap, by the way. For the desktop farmer, let's go with a phased rollout. So instead of introducing that to the community immediately right now, let's again just test it out within the team, then with the ambassadors, and then once we get the major issues worked out, then we can start rolling it out to the community.
Okay. The only reason I said that is because before we mentioned the subspace, I was planning on sending out a message to the community broadly about using the terminal, like the binaries route. Would you like me to send that out to see if we can, like you mentioned the other day, try and break the testnet, see if there's anything going on that way?
Yeah, so it's not like we're trying to encourage community farming right now for like everybody in the Discord. It's more like we're asking, so instead of saying like, hey, everybody, here's the instructions on how to run a node, it would be like, hey, if you guys are interested in testing, like we have a very early buggy version of the testnet. If you guys would like to test it, DM me and I'll, give you the access, or I'll tell you how to set it up. Like, because we're at this stage right now where we're like kind of manually embedding users. Like we kind of almost have to like walk them through it, or like talk them through it, like drop them the links.
Right.
And the feedback, that's like where the feedback is so critical right now at this stage, versus just like, hey, like 100 people go join the testnet, and then like people have bad experiences, we don't know why, like some of them work, some of them don't, it's like overwhelming. So we're trying to do it in this very slow kind of phase, like deliberate manual approach. That won't scale, but once we work out those bugs, then we can get to the point that it will scale.
Perfect. Okay. In that case, yeah, I'll continue to privately reach out to community members and get feedback once we get to that stage.
And desktop app, it's only for farming, right? It will not run the node, so you still have to run CLI in parallel. Is that correct?
That's good. Can you answer that?
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
The desktop application is only for farming. It's not the node itself.
No, it's only farming at the moment. Node should be integrated to it in the later steps.
Okay.
Oh, so you actually have to run the desktop, or sorry, the node from the CLI and then start the desktop
Yes.
app?
Exactly.
Oh, I thought we'd already integrated that.
No.
Okay, well, that's your priority then.
Okay.
I thought that was done.
No.
Okay. That's released by the end of this week. That's the goal. Should be pretty
I will
straightforward.
try my best. Yeah.
Okay, Lu Cheng, you're next.
Okay, sure. Okay, last week I first fixed a few issues I observed for the external execution receipt checking. Now it at least works like if you run the local development network. And then I looked into the issue of state mismatch between the executor assaulting node and the default node. Which I found was caused by the inherent extrinsic, the timestamp. So with some discussion with Nazar, we decided that the inherent extrinsic will be removed from the Cirrus runtime completely. The last thing I worked was to prepare the test framework for Cirrus. In order to do that, we need a test runtime and the service for both Cirrus and Subspace. The test framework is almost done. I'm still working on the final piece, mocking the farmer in the test. Once it's finished, we can write like more test for Cirrus. For example, how the Cirrus will work like under the primary chain forks. This week actually, like before I write more like test cases for the Cirrus, I need to do refactoring, which is to extract the current subspace service from the subspace node to a new crate, so that it can be reused both in the test environment and the production environment. Yeah, that's all my updates.
Okay, so the state mismatch bug, we know how to fix it, but we
Yes.
haven't actually implemented that fix yet.
Yes. The bug fix will be submitted with the test framework.
What are the implications of not having inherence in Cirrus?
Because the timestamp is not deterministic.
No, I understand that. I just mean, what are the implications? What are like the long term or the larger effects of that, of not having that?
Nope.
What do we lose
Nope.
by not having inherence?
Nope. We support it until we find it's really necessary. We'll find a really solution for this issue.
So we don't.
Well, so inherents they are just special extrinsics which are inherent to the protocol itself. They're like required to be there always. And on the execution side, we just don't have any like consensus. It's fully deterministic. So there is no point in having inherents. If you ever have inherents, they will be fully deterministic as well. So there will be no problem that two clients generate different results of execution. So this was just like side effect of the refactoring, basically, that we generated different timestamps. It's no longer be the case.
Okay, makes sense. Okay, so do you expect that you'll be able to have that refactored out this week, Lu Cheng, so that bug is removed?
Actually, it's down, but I wanted to like to have a test case for this. So I wanted to submit the bug fix with the test framework altogether.
Okay. And what
Actually,
is your estimate?
the bug fix is like pretty straightforward. we just like to remove the timestamp like inherent, which is to remove the palette timestamp. That's everything, basically.
Okay. And we can still have a slot-based selection without palette timestamp being in Cirrus?
Yes.
I get, yeah, because that's just coming from the overseer, right? That's just like an asynchronous
Yes.
message. It's not inherent in the executor implementation. Okay, got it.
And we can bring
Yes.
it back later if necessary. We just need to take timestamp from the primary block instead of generating all on the fly from local time.
Right. Right. Okay. Okay. Makes sense. And with the test framework, I mean, is like how big of a task is that? Is that something we're going to have soon, or is this like a multi-week project?
Yeah, we should be soon. This week, absolutely, basically.
Okay.
We actually like borrowed the upstream mostly
Okay.
from Polkadot, from Cumulus. Yeah.
Okay. And so
Just
once,
need.
sorry, go ahead. So once we have the kind of this process smoothed out with the test framework, and we've got this non-determinism removed, then what are the next steps in terms of the functionality for the fraud-proof process?
Yeah, I haven't like received any reply from Bastien regarding the intermediate storage proof. That's the like final piece, I believe, for the fraud proof. So, except this part, we are going to have a discussion about to prioritize all the to-dos we have currently, and then we are like to implement them.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you said you haven't received feedback, is that from Parity or is that just an internal PR?
From Parity. From the discussion I opened on the Subspace on the Substrate repo.
Okay, so we're still a little bit blocked on how to actually generate these intermediate storage proofs for the fraud proof generation.
Yeah. Yes. I can like I have made a custom like substrate fork with my patch. I can generate the intermediate storage proof, but I'm not sure if that is like correct for sure. So I'm waiting on the like confirmation from the Parity guys.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll probably have a more in-depth discussion about that tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, sounds great.
Sounds good to me as well. Any other questions to Liu Cheng? All right, Serge, you're next.
Okay, so last week I set up a repository for Subspace examples, and this is what I was mostly working on last week. So currently we have only one example for state mine, state mint, or any other chain which uses Pilot Unix, like a simple React application. And I had some discussions with Leo, how should we approach like certain UI related challenges, and based on that I did some updates, like I converted UI components to Material UI, which is the most popular framework now and should be more familiar to most of the developers. And I also added integration with Subspace and an example with batch of extrinsics, so you don't have to set metadata as a separate extrinsic. You can mint an asset and add metadata in the same, like, and sign only once. And yeah, some other minor things like added README and stuff. So yeah, we can use it as a template for our future examples. Also, I was working a little bit on feed validation, but currently I'm facing issue with compiler because I have added a bunch of new crates to the repository, and I don't know yet. I'm trying to identify which one is causing the compiler issue, and I will focus on this this week. Apart from that, on the Near Hackathon, there was introduction meeting last week, and there will be 2 more like workshops this week. I hope I will attend. On the parachains and relayer, unfortunately, there is no update from Sakura, and their node is like endpoint is not working, and they didn't reply on GitHub issue. However, Subsocial seems to work at the moment, so I have added it to archives and relayer. And yeah, I think that's all. Any questions?
What are your priorities for this week, Serge?
For this week, I want to make some progress on feed validation. And if I have more time, probably we'll do some stuff on the Near Hackathon and more subspace examples, like maybe example with ink.
And we have state mine is the only example right now in the.
Yes, yes, state mine, yes.
Okay, cool.
And on the example side, please collaborate more with Leo. It's mostly like front-end, full stack kind of development, so Leo is better to review that part. Just don't wait for me to review it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right. With feeds validation, so could you be a little bit more specific about the compilation errors that you're having?
I created a thread on engineering channel, and yeah, Nazar replied to me. So I kind of have an idea why it's happening, but I can't identify which particular crate causes it. And yeah, it's like a standard features, default features standard, something related to that, and to WASM compilation. Yeah, so I just need more time to narrow my search to identify which particular crate, because on the main branch it compiles just fine, obviously, and some of the new crates are causing this.
Yeah, actually, this is a known issue in Substrate, and there is already a pull request from Bastian which fixes it. They're doing something interesting in the build script for the WASM files. And in newer Rust versions, there is a new change, which basically allows you to decouple feature names from crate names. So you don't have to invent like strange feature names just to not overlap them with the crate name. And you can disambiguate it with, I believe, dep colon. And then it will be like a dependency name, and the feature name can have the same name, but it will not like conflict. And basically something along those lines causes problems in the build script. The pull request with the fix was submitted a few days ago, but it's not merged yet. So this is only happening like on the newer Rust versions. So yeah, you'll have to just eliminate one by one and figure out like which dependency causes problem. But hopefully in the next few days they'll merge it, and I'll probably merge the newer Substrate in, and we'll no longer have that problem.
Okay. All right. Serge, have you had a chance to talk with Skylar about the new parachain onboarding process or the board that he set up for that?
Yeah, we have like offline communication, and but most of the parachains except Sakura are already onboarded. Most of those who actually like produce blocks.
Okay, because we had a discussion on Thursday about that. I wasn't sure if you talked to him since then, or if you're thinking of the old process.
Yeah, he's tagging me and he messages me on Discord, so
great.
I think we are.
And you're updating those tickets in or the status of those chains in the
No,
board, or he's doing it?
I don't update anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I just notify them like something was added. That's it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
can update.
Yeah, that was what we had discussed, that it would all happen, instead of happening in Discord, it would happen in the board with tagging there. So I think we probably just need to have a team discussion on that to get everybody on the same page. We're going to do that on the next integrations call.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of people involved in the process, and there's still a disconnect in the communication flow, or like a huge latency, more like days or weeks sometimes in the communication flow. We're just trying to correct so we can make things happen a little faster.
Sure.
And it's not just you. You're one of 6 people involved in the process.
Yeah,
So
I can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. For the near hackathon, will that result in a new example in the NFT folder?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the plan.
Great. Okay. So we still have a separate testnet for the archives, or for the parachain backups that we're doing, which is separate from FarmNet. This is something which we're going to need to tie back together once we get to incentivized testnet, so that when people are on incentivized testnet, they're actually storing, there's data to store. It's not just creating 10,000 replicas of a 100 megabyte blockchain, but it's creating like 5 replicas of a 200 gigabyte blockchain, something like that. So I would like you to think about that, what we need to do to make that happen. And if there's anything that's going to require changes on the engineering or the infrastructure side to make that work, then let's start doing that. But think about that, and put that in your updates about the testnet, about the road to testnet.
Sure. Yeah, I think we should start a new relayer, right, for the FarmNet that will just feed the data from archives.
That's probably not a good idea.
What would be a better idea?
Well, we need to have partial replica, and then we can let anyone run anything. Until then, we'll basically require people to have like 300 gigabytes of free space before they can do anything. Don't have like a limit.
Yeah, it's definitely going to depend on some feature updates in the farming process, but once that happens, I'd like to be prepared to do that merge of the nets, not wait until then to figure it out. Okay. All right. Thanks, Serge.
All right, so Ivan is not here, but I can forward a few updates from him. Last week, he finished reading Kademlia and a few videos from about Flight Client. And this week, he planned to work on fraud proofs and Light Client security papers, Flow, and Lazy Ledger, but it will depend on how he feels. So it's not clear yet what the progress will be. Since he cannot answer questions, I'll proceed further. On my side, on the code side, I was working with networking after merging the networking like initial implementation. I worked on integrating networking into Farmer. There are now 2 parameters in the Farmer. One is to specify the bootstrap node, and the other one is to specify a listening address. Listening address is an optional parameter. If you specify it, it will connect and instantiate the new network. If you don't, it will just start without new networking, so it's a completely optional feature. There is also an example application in the Subspace networking, which is acting as a bootstrap node. So you can start that, you can start the Farmer, connect to it, interact with it. After that, I also worked and added gossip sub support. So you basically can create a topic, subscribe to it, publish some message. Everyone subscribed should hopefully receive the message. It is untyped. There is still a lot of work to do, but it is like a first step towards that goal. Also, there was a small regression in the RPC communication between the latest snapshot that FarmNet is running, and after some refactoring on the main branch, we've changed the serialization to JSON, and it stopped being camel cased, so the solutions were not verified properly. So I fixed that. That was something noticed by Ozgan. And there is this problem where Node was stuck and is not able to sync it. Basically, it was a strange situation which didn't print any errors, but then after some restarts on server side, it was printing that it cannot verify the block. It cannot import the block. And the reason for that was that some of the root blocks were not available for it. So I think there is just some logic error in the code, and it is probably happening somewhere on the edge where the new segment was just archived and someone happened to have a solution within piece set from that last segment, but some nodes didn't archive it like properly, so they cannot verify it. Something like that should be happening. I will have to meditate on those logs and figure out how it can possibly be, and then fix it, and hopefully we'll never see the problem again. But it was really strange, and apparently we had like 3 people already with that problem, so it's definitely something that is worth fixing in the near future. Also, we had discussions with Jeremiah about networking and about accounts, count model and execution model. So I was doing some more reading about those, and also some drawing on the account and execution side. We'll discuss it today on the protocol design call. Yeah, and hopefully I will make more progress on the networking side. The goal is to have the sync process working both between farmers, so one farmer can sync from another farmer, and also for nodes to be able to sync from those plots, because those plots contain all of the information necessary in the end. If we have that, we will no longer require nodes to have archival nodes. They will be able to switch to full nodes, and eventually to even light clients. So that is why we are working on networking. And with that, I think these are the primary updates. Any questions to me?
Yeah, Nizar, have you been able to put any of that networking kind of conceptual model or design into the master architecture document?
Not really, not yet. And it's still pretty flux, but I'll probably put some. We just need to have some more discussion before I like freeze at least some part of it.
Okay, makes sense. And then on Ivan, his priority, well, of course, depends on how he does this week, but the priority was for him to finish his onboarding this week, and then next week he would be able to start helping you out with the consensus and the networking code.
Yeah, he was already onboarding a little bit, like he was reviewing some pull requests recently, so he's just ramping up. Yeah. Okay, this is all on my side. Jeremiah, do you have any final thoughts?
No, nothing really related to the engineering side. Just working a lot on the planning, like we've been discussing at the all hands meetings.
Okay, thanks for watching then. See you guys on YouTube in 1 week.
Thanks, everybody.